Well, again, the process of Judaization, that's the word we use. We're Judaizing the occupied territories. We're Judaizing Judea, Samaria, and Jerusalem. Meaning that we're making it, we're de-Arabizing it, which is half the process. Erasing the Arab presence, the Arab history, the Arab identity, the Arab character of the place, and Judaizing it, then making it Jewish. You see that taking place in the Silwan area, just below the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is a Palestinian community that's being taken over by settlers in all kinds of ways, because how you take over Palestinian houses is a very dirty business. It's extortion, it's using the courts, there's a lot of money involved, threats, blackmail. But at any rate, what happens is over time, this vulnerable Palestinian population begins to be displaced by the settlers. Silwan's name has been changed by Israel to be the City of David. Now it's become a big tourist site. Now the city wants to demolish 88 houses in the center of this community to build a parking lot and archaeological garden for the City of David. In other words, the whole thing is to highlight the Israeli-Jewish connection to this part of Jerusalem, and up to what we call the Temple Mount. And we don't say the noble sanctuary, Haram al-Sharif. We talk about the Temple Mount. So the whole idea is to Judaize inside Jerusalem as well. So Silwan is a way. So in other words, you have that process going on. But at some point, you hit some very real obstacles. Like, for example, the Al-Aqsa Mosque is there. But what are you going to do? You can't demolish it. That would create look, they want to burn the Quran in the United States, and look at the outrage. Imagine coming in and destroying the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But you want to get rid of it because you want to build a temple there, or you want to Judaize it and so on. Well, in Silwan, the City of David project the Silwan has been called the City of David, and it's been designated as a national park. So the settlers in Silwan aren't only settlers, they're agents of the National Parks Authority, which includes the Antiquities departments. So they can come in under the guise of being archaeologists, of developing the national park, of doing infrastructure, and they can begin to tinker with the sites. So, for example, from the Al-Aqsa Mosque is here, and right down the hill, very close, but right down the steep hill is Silwan. Well, there's a lot of ancient sewage passages for people, old, all kinds. And Jerusalem is built on layer after layer after layer after layer, with earthquakes and fires and destructions and rebuildings. So, they're very porous layers. And then on top of that sits the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The idea is that if the settlers can dig underneath, open up the old sewage passages, open up other passages, weaken the layers upon which Al-Aqsa is built, then, now we live in an earthquake belt. Jerusalem is a part of the Rift Valley that goes from Syria all the way down to Lake Victoria. It's one of the major rifts in the Earth's crust. And there's a major earthquake at least once a century. We're actually overdue for a major quake. So the idea is, okay, we won't destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque, but we'll dig underneath, weaken the base, so that when the earthquake comes, it'll collapse, you see, and then so Israel and these settlers are really playing with fire, in a sense, because until now the conflict has remained a political conflict. But once something like that happens, and the Muslims know it's happening. I mean, there's pictures of these settlers digging. I've been inside the tunnels. I mean, it's a known thing. So that's inflaming to some degree. That's one reason why the Muslim world is feeling that Jerusalem is in danger and so on. But once that happens, or something like that happens, the whole conflict becomes a theological conflict. Then it's really a clash of civilizations between Judaism and Islam, and then Christianity gets thrown in there somewhere. And that's where it gets out of control. Because as long as it's political, there's a solution. And even the Saudis, for all their religious stuff, they presented in 2002 the Saudi Peace Initiative. So they're trying very hard to keep this thing political. Once something happens to Al-Aqsa, or this Judaization process gets to a point where Muslims really feel that they're losing Jerusalem, the whole thing could just blow up and become a theological conflict with no solution. So this Silwan seems like a little, isolated kind of a place where these nutty settlers are doing this stuff. But they're really playing with fire because they're playing with one of the major symbols of Islam. So that this conflict is really taking place on all kinds of different levels. The good news is that it is a global conflict, because, and that's one of the things that keeps the Palestinians visible. The fact that that what happens to the Palestinians is a matter for all Muslims, both for religious reasons, because this is happening in the Holy Land, but also because the Palestinians are seen as sort of this resistance, one of the most meaningful points of resistance to Western neocolonialism, to imperialism, to the humiliation of Islam. The Palestinians are like this little dam that's standing up to Israel, and Israel is representative of the United States.